Connections are what life is made of, and Net-juu no Susume is full of connections. Working within the bounds of an internet video game, Fruits to Myrrh, this cast of characters comes together in ways that speak to someone familiar with how life works in the realms of virtual reality. From the lonely neat Moriko to the pining schoolgirl to the shared love of accounts between a married couple, Net-juu no Susume gets what makes these experiences online so magical. Why MMOs are social in just the right ways. In one of the more recent episodes, Moriko mentioned that even if you're alone, playing an MMO means you're never lonely. Because while you might be stuck in a room in the real world far from others by choice or circumstance, there's always an adventure or conversation or even just a shopping spree to have with any number of people. Sometimes this can be sought after, while other times, like in Lily's case, it can be a bit of a bother. But regardless of what a person is seeking in an MMO, if they're looking to find like-minded individuals, it's definitely a lot easier than doing so in real life. And perhaps that's the biggest appeal of loading up a game like Fruits to Myrrh. Moriko and Sakurai have both played MMOs in the past to either get away from the horrible stress and back-breaking labor or to deal with a personal tragedy in life. They find solace in one another far before they ever met in that real life, and even when they did, it was just another person passed on the street at first, no different from the countless they pass in the real world every day. But once they formed that connection with one another, first through the initial MMO and later in Fruits to Myrrh, they found out they weren't as alone as they had always been. A fact of life I think a lot of people can attest to. See, MMOs are, at heart, a social experience. Sure, there's some that focus or allow you to solo in parts or even the majority, such as Star Wars The Old Republic, but they are popular and were created to offer people connections they could not get in real life. Like I said earlier, it's so much easier to just walk up to another person you know has a similar interest, and when faced with the possibility of adventure or challenge, making friends is a lot faster than in the drudgery of real life. Moriko's work life emphasizes this, as does Sakurai's mistreatment by the other kids thanks to his heritage. There is no adventure, no color in the real world, for most people. But in Fruits to Myrrh, they get the opportunity to discover and find out more about themselves, as well as each other, just by spending time in a fun place together. The anonymity of the world, especially playing as the opposite gender, as is the case with this anime, only increases the ease with which you can just say hi and group up with another person. If they reject you, it's fine, because they don't really know you or your reputation in life, and they have very little effect on how you live your life before or after that rejection. It's ironic then, that forming a connection with someone else who does accept you can have such big ramifications on your life, even if they only stay friends through the screen. See, friends are friends, regardless of whether you can see and meet them. Half of what makes the world go round is the emotional connection we experience when dealing with another person. And growing close through adventure causes all sorts of closeness that can end up with taking advice from a fellow guild member, just like the guildmaster offers Moriko, and even straight up revealing themselves to select people, like the husband and wife's pair sharing characters is known to the guildmaster, to give an example aside from the obvious Moriko and Sakurai. This emotional connection has caused many to seek out those friendships in the real world, whether through conventions and interests they share, or just to meet up for a casual day of talking about whatever. Take a week to look and you'll find stories every day of people meeting for the first time as best men at a wedding, or setting up a time for tea after playing something like Words for Friends. And of course, there is the very special occasion when two people find their soulmates, or at least someone they love, through the online world. I myself have experienced this with my MMO of choice, World of Warcraft. A lot of people decry the proximity of all these characters in Net-juu as unrealistic, but one of my ex-girlfriends lived not an hour away when I first met her online. What server you get suggested when you initially start is usually based on location, at least it was for WoW. So it makes sense that the servers Moriko and Sakurai met on in both MMO are one and the same. Meeting in real life, unknowing of their prior meetings through avatars on the internet, is slightly less believable. But especially in smaller countries like Japan, still probable. After all, this is a story, and certain contrivances in the strictest sense are necessary because this would be rather different if the show was about two people who never met in real life. Actually, in some ways, it might even be better than what we got. Digression aside, connections like Moriko and Sakurai share are the most special to me, because I see them every day. I've always held to the idea that love is the most important thing in existence, so stories that showcase love make me the happiest, and stories about love in situations that I've personally experienced bring that home even closer. Combining my life threads with that of my endless fascination with the tapestry that is the internet bringing people together, like I mentioned in my Yuri on Ice video, makes Net-juu no Susume one of my favorite anime this season. Surprisingly so, since I had no expectations when I first watched it. Perhaps you can find more or less interactions between people you've met and read about meeting online, and I say that's so very grand. The internet is an incredible invention that brings people together, regardless of distance, and even I haven't seen all the ways in which it can. We all have different experiences, come from different walks of life, exist differently. Just look at Sakurai's friend and his temperament in real life, or his character online bucking the social norms of your standard lithe female character, one straight out of the Amazon. But he still makes friends with people, because it's fun and funny to interact with such a wide variety of individuals. The world would be rather dull if we were all the same, and the further the internet reaches, the more people that make connections, the better the world will get. Whether it's at a deep personal level, like Moriko and Sakurai's relationship, or just a group of friends meeting online to have a good time, or anything in between and all around that. The connections we make in life are not limited to the ones we make in person. Life is about connections, and Net-juu no Susume is a good example of why the internet is just as much a part of life as anything else. If you have a story you'd like to share or talk about relating to your time spent on the online world, or even ones you've read about, please share them in the comments below. I love hearing about people's experiences, honestly. So anything you can give me is another connection for me to make. And who knows, you might even meet someone you have a lot in common with as they comment and reply to your story as well. A wonderful feedback loop. Of course, you can always talk to me anytime on Twitter at Crosswind if you want a more lively discussion. But if you want to just passively watch and share my experiences like you have been in this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button to get more, and that notification button for instant updates on when another video of mine comes out. I also ask that you consider supporting me on Patreon, which you can find at the end of the video and in the description. The lowest tier is just $1 a month, so it doesn't have to break the bank if you feel like my content's worth at least 25 cents a week. Regardless, always remember to enjoy the way you watch anime, and media in general, because as long as you're having fun and making those connections even with these characters you watch, that's all that really matters. I'll see you next time. Yeah.